For section 10.2 in 8th grade, we're dealing with the real number system. So we have two different categories that we're going to face on: rational numbers and irrational numbers. Basically, the difference is if it's not an irrational number, then it's a rational number, okay? And you can spot an irrational number because it can't be written as a fraction. So, for example, 3.1415, if the decimal keeps going with random numbers and there's no pattern, then it's an irrational number. Everything else can be considered a rational number. Now, basic rational numbers are 1/4, 0.2, negative 7.5. It's fractions that stop, right? Even if it's 0.22222, the 2's repeat, so it's still considered a rational number. It's only when you have all of these fractions afterwards and there's no repeat and it doesn't stop, which is kind of like pi. Integers, are basically any whole number, positive or negative, and zero. Okay, so as it's one step more into rational numbers, which is any whole number, positive, negative, zero. Now, whole numbers only count as 0 to, it only counts as positive whole numbers. Okay, so those are the difference. So whole numbers, then integers contain all of the whole numbers. So plus you add on the negatives, and then rational numbers contain integers, whole numbers, and then all of the the fractions and stuff that you can that you can categorize that's not irrational numbers. So if we're going to name the sets of numbers, because this has a line over it, that means this fraction is 0.246, 246, 24, so on and so forth. So there's a pattern. So this is a rational number. Now, it doesn't fit anywhere else because it's not a whole number, but it is a rational number. Now, square root of 225, let's find out what that is 15. So this is a whole number, an integer, and a rational number. I'm just going to abbreviate it, sorry. This one, negative 7.25, is a rational number, right? But it's not anything else, because it's not a whole number or anything. 17 squared root is 4 it's a big number there. So because if it's such a big number, and there's no pattern or anything that you can see on there, so this is considered an irrational number. So what they want us to do on number 5 is to order it from least to greatest, and they all give it to us in different ways. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them all in numbers. So 6 1/4 is the same thing as saying 6.25. Root 38 is 6.164. 16. Because this is in 2 decimal places, I'm going to put everything in 2 decimal places. 6.55, and this is 6.00. See, everything's in 2 decimal places, okay? Because this one actually is a big number also, so many decimal places. But because everything else is in 2, I'm going to put that in 2. So then I just put it in order. We have 6.00. Sorry, they want us to put it in original. So the first thing is root 36, then root 38, then 6 1/4, and lastly is 6.5, repeat. Okay? Now sometimes it's just going to be slightly off, that's why it's important to put them all in the same amount of decimal points. The next one is asking us to solve. And when we're trying to solve for a letter, we have to do, for a variable, we need to do the opposite. Like if something was being added, we needed to subtract, if you remember that. In this case, it's a square, and if you remember last section, the opposite of a square is a square root, okay? So we have square root here on both sides, right? So W And because I'm solving, I need to make sure to cover all my basics. The square root of 169 is 13. Now, I have to be careful because I have to consider everything. So 13 times 13 is 169, but also negative 13 and negative 13 equals 169. Since I'm solving, I have to make sure to include both. So my answer will be plus or negative 13, right? So this square root, one more time, cancels out this 2, leaving me with just w. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So that means I have to do square root of 169, but two numbers when multiplied together of the square root. So 13 times 13 gives me 169, but negative 13 times negative 13, the negatives cancel out and also gives me 169. So this represents two answers, positive 13 and negative 13, because both can work. All right, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to square root both sides. This cancels out. I end up with just r. And I'm going to do the square root of 50, which gives me 7.07, plus or minus. Okay, remember I didn't have to do that here, but because I'm solving, I need to make sure to do that too, because the solution is actually two different answers. So go ahead and write this down. Try page 568, numbers 1, 6, and 10, 568, numbers 1, 6, and 10, and I will see you in class.